Hey friends, this is Jen Gray, your host of Be Genuine with Jen, where together we will discover the power of authenticity, mindset, and personal growth. I am super excited for you to join me today on episode 5 of the show, and I'm going to talk all about vulnerability. I know I shared a little bit of my story a couple episodes back, I believe it was episode 3, and I want to take it a little bit deeper. I truly believe that this has transformed my life, and a shift in understanding completely has changed not only the way I think, but the way I act, the way I represent myself, the humility that I have in certain areas, the voices that I choose to listen to, these stances I choose to make, and all of the things. But here's what I want to talk about. First of all, I'm going to read you. It's the beginning of chapter 4 of a book called Daring Greatly. If you guys are not Brene Brown fans, you should be. But her stuff is so good, so deep, and so freaking practical. But I want to read the beginning part of chapter 4. I think it's exactly, I couldn't have said it any better. And so it says, as children, we found ways to protect ourselves from vulnerability, from being hurt, diminished, and disappointed. We put on armor, we used our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors as weapons, and we learned how to make ourselves scarce, even to disappear. Now, as adults, we realize that to live with courage, purpose, and connection, to be the person whom we long to be, we must again be vulnerable. We must take off the armor, put down the weapons, show up, and let ourselves be seen. That may sound really good to someone that maybe you didn't have a really hard childhood, and so maybe you're like, I've always been accepted for who I am. I've always just been 100% myself. And I think whether or not you've had a hard childhood or not, the fact that you grew up with the self-realization and the self-esteem to say, I'm valuable, I am worth 100%, no matter what. Like, nobody else gets to dictate that worth. But I think ultimately, maybe I'll just speak for myself. That's not how most of us grow up, and I don't even think that's how culture even raises us, right? I'm even thinking, like, when we're kids, we had all the emotions, right? Like, if you and just think about, if you're a parent, the emotions that you accept from a 2-year old are going to be very different from the emotions that you accept from a 10-year old. Now, mind you, part of it is called maturity and it's called growing up, right? And it's like choosing to display emotions as needed, right? And so some of that, it goes on with that side of things. But I also think that a lot of us in that we don't really learn how to adequately express our emotions. We don't learn that the way we feel actually has validation, and we can learn a lot about the people around us and our own thoughts if we choose to, like, tap into those. Now, also, the other side of things is if you are controlled by your emotions or your feelings, that is not healthy either. So I want to talk about today about vulnerability, and I want to share a part of my story. And actually, it was a conversation that I had in a counseling office about a month ago. You ever have those conversations and it literally just stops you in your tracks, and you're like, oh my goodness, this statement is something that literally transitions. It's like my life before that statement and my life after that statement. And so I want to set up the story before I get to that point. But that's what I want to talk about today, how this literally shifted my life and ultimately how it shifts your life. And so even if your childhood wasn't dramatic and wasn't traumatic, I still believe that we get in our minds, that we put on armor, we put on a mask, we show the outside world this great appearance, and then we probably let the people closest to us see maybe our real selves. And that's really how we learn to function as American robots, right? And it may be, you may be a European robot or whatever nationality is watching this, right? We grow up with this like mentality that that's just the way culture functions. We shield, 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 armor, 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 shield, 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 armor, armor, armor. And especially if you went through hard things, you may have been told things like I did, that whatever happens in these 4 walls stays in these 4 walls. Whatever we talk about here, nobody else needs to know about, right? And so those were things that my dad would say. And so I grew up with this really, really unhealthy way of dealing with things where I just shoved it. And I, in my own mind, tried to dive through these things. Maybe you can relate. And so here's the statement that I want to talk about. So I'm sitting there in counseling, and I'm working through a lot of healing and a lot of this. Really, I want to become the best version of myself. I don't know about you guys. I think that's why you're here too. And through that, I'm sharing about a very, very hard season of my life where I felt like everybody in my circle, small circle, big circle, all the circles, abandoned me. And it was at the time in my life I felt like I needed people and I felt like that I didn't have anybody. And so I'm walking through, re-walking through that season and learning a lot about myself. It's amazing when you go back and you re re-examine a hard season of life and with first of all, hindsight's 2020, hello, but also with a lot of humility and the desire to be the best version and not the desire to just be right. You're going to see things in a very different lens. And so as I'm talking about things, I'm like, the reason it hurts so bad is because I was an open book, right? I tell everybody everything. Like my life, I used to be a public speaker in the realm of the church. I used to work on a church staff, and I would speak to high school girls. I wanted them to know their worth. I wanted them to know their value. I wanted them to see that no matter what their earthly father said, what their heavenly father said, and all the things. So I was a speaker and I did events for high school girls. I wanted to be for high school girls what I needed in high school. So in all that season, I'm like, I was an open book. I told people about my alcoholic father and what that went through and all that. And I said, but some of it I wasn't able to be open about, like the fact that I had to lie about this hair disease to protect everybody else in my life. And I was just going through all that. And I said, but I was an open book. Everyone knew everything. And so I don't know why then when I needed people the most that I had let them in on my life, then why they just ran and they abandoned. And then someone said to me, they said, if you were an open book and you were vulnerable, I think that's what doesn't make sense. That you were actually guarded and you weren't even telling the truth and you actually weren't vulnerable at all. That's what took everybody by such surprise because you were such the person that everyone looked up to. And then it felt like everything that you had ever said was an absolute lie. I want you to sit with that for a second and get that with a dose of humility. And what I could have done is I could have responded with arrogance and said, la, la, la. But instead I sat back and I'm like, oh my goodness, you are absolutely right. The pattern of my life has been when there are parts of it that I'm not proud of, then I'm going to put a mask over it and just show you what I am proud of. And then ultimately, when you need people, they're going to have no idea what you've even been through because you've become so guarded. But as kids, we learn that, right? So I want you to think about your life. I also don't think you need to air dirty laundry everywhere. I do think you need to have people that you can trust. And ultimately, it's not even about you telling other people your story, I don't think. I think that it's about you accepting the truth of your life, whether that's really, really good or really, really bad. One of my favorite quotes, and it's from the Bible, it says, think on things that are true. When you think on things that are true, you start to examine, are you feeling what you need to feel or are you fabricating where you are? So I had to deal with the fact that I was in a marriage I did not need to be in, and I knew I didn't need to be into it decades before. Right. And so instead, I had this image that everything was fine. So what did I do? I put on as many masks as I needed to have the outward image. Everything is great. So I could keep my job in a church. Okay. There's no other details I need to go through that, but you may relate, right? A really, really hard season where you live one way and you hide the rest of the way because you just want everything in your life to be an escape from your actual reality. Well, when you get older, you get to choose that and you get to actually decide that the truth is what's going to absolutely set you free. So the truth is you may lose a lot of people in your life. People may disagree with your decisions 100%. But I've learned over the last 5+ years that the person that I need to look in the mirror and be the most proud of is myself. I need to be honored in my own decisions, okay? And so you're going to lose people and you're going to gain people. But the ultimate thing is that you are going to know that you are worth showing up in the most genuine, honest way. And this is going to affect you not only in personal relationships as a parent, but it's going to affect you in business. I build business online, and so much of building business online is that people do business with those they know, like, and trust, right? So if I put on an image that I'm one type of person and then it comes out that I'm a different type of person, are you going to trust me in business? No. So you better get your story straight, your facts straight, and your vulnerability straight before you ever try to build a business online. Because if I tell you, you can trust me, I'm going to find you the best option. And you find out that I've just given you the option that was worth the most commission for me. And there's actually much better options that would be less commission for me. Are you going to ever trust me again that I'm going to do what's best for you? No. That's why it's important that, especially when you're building a business, especially if you're building a business online, especially when you're connecting with strangers, that you show up in the most authentic version of yourself. Because here's what I want my team to know. I want you to know that when you jump on board with me, mindset is a big deal. If you are on my team and I am your leader, I'm going to care about your heart and your mind even more so than the commission that comes into your life, because I know that's ultimately what's going to keep you in here the long haul and what's going to make you the best version of yourself. So what else am I going to care about? I'm going to care about the fact of how you show up for yourself. I'm going to care about the fact that you are going to be on the winning team, not the losing team. And you're going to get rid of all of your fear and you're going to jump all in and literally change your life. And a lot of people, I have to believe in them before they can believe in themselves. But if I was the kind of leader who never did my business, who told people that I did business online and they're like, I don't even see you online at all, right? Red flag number one, right? Like, she's not who she says she is, but clearly you go to my social media and you're like, I don't know what she does, but her face is all up over it. Maybe I, check it out. Okay. It's because the only way you know that I help you out with health insurance, life insurance, and retirement is because I tell you what I do, right? And I've chosen to do it online because there's a lot of you on there that I get to help. Okay. So that's what I have to show up as a leader in the way that I say that I'm going to show up. How are you showing up in your life? Are you telling your kids to eat healthy and then you're going and feeding them healthy and you're going through a drive-through and they're finding all of your trash? Do you think they're going to believe you when you tell them the importance of eating healthy? No, they don't care what you say, they care what you do. That's what happens all throughout our life, that our life matches the story that we are portraying. Okay. And I will tell you, there are many years that it didn't. And so for me, I had to get really honest. Okay. I had to come out and I had to say, you know what? I've lied for 20 years about a hair disease, and now I'm literally in my 30s, and most people probably don't even care. But I've literally stood on stages and told high school girls across the nation a story that was a lie, in the sense of being vulnerable so that they ultimately can learn another lesson about their life. And I'm like, no, Jen, this is not the foundation that you want to build the rest of your life on. You've got to stop. It may seem like it's been so long, it's been too long for you to come clean. Do you know the most powerful day it was when I came clean? And I will never forget when I sat my mom down at a restaurant and we're eating pho in a bowl, and I'm telling my mom, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, Mom, there's really nothing. I don't think there's anything you could have even done, because I was so intent on protecting you and Dad that I lied and lied and lied and lied and lied and lied and lied about it. So what does that show me about myself? I care deeply about the people around me. Maybe you need to look at yourself and you need to say, oh, yeah, you know what? I would probably not lie about myself, but I would lie to protect somebody else. Okay. But listen, when you decide that your life is not going to exist just for everybody else, that your character and your integrity matters because you are who you are no matter what, y'all, that is when your life shifts. Because guess what I had to do? Here's who I really am. Yes, you want to judge me because I lied. I completely respect that and I understand that. I know that that hurts you. Oh, you want to judge me because I divorced a man I should have never married, right? Okay, so that's fine. You can absolutely judge me. That is absolutely your prerogative, and I respect that. But I still had to do what was best for my children, even if you disagree. That's when you decide that your vulnerability is your own, like that it's your truth is your truth. Okay, and so here's another thing I want you to think. If you're living in your life, if you're living a life and you think my truth is not good enough, right? Like maybe right now you're building a business and you've never built a business before. Listen, that is super exciting, because guess what you get to do? You get to show every middle-aged mom. Let's say you're a middle-aged mom. Let's say you're an dude who's been a corporate executive and you decide enough is enough. I want to be an entrepreneur, but what do I do? I've been on the top. How on earth do I go down the bottom? Do I go to the bottom totem pole and start at the bottom? Guess what you get to do? You get to give hope for everyone who's ever been in those shoes in a way that I couldn't, in the way that somebody else couldn't, because that's the world that you're living in. So guess what you get to do? Be vulnerable and be honest and go be a beginner and start it and build it to success, whatever success looks like for you. Take people on the journey. And guess what? Here's what I love what Brene Brown says about vulnerability. The only way that people are really going to connect with you is if you tell them that every day has not been perfect. Every day has not been easy. Because if you start pretending like life is easy, everything just happens for you, even though behind the scenes it's really, really hard, you've completely lied and you're building a brand on something that's completely inauthentic, and ultimately it will crumble. You may think you can keep on the mask for long enough, but I'm telling you, you're going to have a lot of freedom in your life if you just say, you know what? Nope, I am a beginner. I'm going to take people through the beginning journeys. I'm going to treat people the way I want to be treated. I'm going to build a business in a way that honors who I am, and I'm going to go. That is when you get to wake up every day proud of what you're building. Because guess what? I don't have to wake up and be like, oh goodness, I wonder if they're going to think that, oh my, that somebody listens to this podcast and they're gonna be like disappointed and be like, oh man, I thought she was like an expert in something, or man, like this sounds like she just started. Guess what? Perfect. I did. I guess what all I have to do is show up as me. Is there are plenty of ums and so's and the other things that I use as filler words that I'm working on, right? Yes, because I'm a beginner. But I decided 5 weeks ago that I was tired of not doing something because I was scared of not being good at it. I just decided I was going to jump. So my vulnerability is saying, hey, guess what? There's probably 100 other podcasts that are worth listening to. And I don't even doubt you. I wouldn't even judge you if you went and listened to them. But guess what? I'm getting better every single time I show up for myself and for the people who are listening. And even if I'm the only person who listens, and I'm super thankful that I'm not, if I'm the only person who listens, guess what? The way that I'm learning to prepare, the way I'm learning to formulate thoughts and to formulate ideas, that all is part of the process. And I'm going to show up and I'm going to do it even if I don't feel worthy of it, because guess what? I am worthy of being all of me. And my purpose and passion is to help other people in their lives. So why do I share vulnerable stories? A lot of you knew me way before I started this podcast. You knew nothing about my past, nothing about my stories, and yet you respected me. Did you have to know that to follow me? No. But I connected with other people because of that in a way that I never would have if I kept a mask on and acted like I'm just a smiley girl in Georgia, raising 4 kids, building a business, and life is just grand. No, I struggle every day. In fact, right now I'm in like it feels heavy. Every single day I have to do exactly what I'm telling you guys to do. I have to shift my mind, shift to gratitude, and work my rear end off. Okay. I love it when it says pray like it doesn't depend on you and work like it does. Okay. Because again, I'm gonna pray that God continues to direct me, guide me, all the things, and I'm gonna work every single day because He's given me the ability and the mind to work. We have to show up in our most vulnerable self. I want to read you this one other part. And he says, Brene Brown says, it appears that believing that we're enough is the way out of the armor. It gives us permission to take off the mask. With that sense of enough comes an embrace of worthiness, boundaries, and engagement. Here's what I want you to listen to. Showing up, taking risks, letting myself be seen is enough. Again, there is a lot of freedom when you walk into a room and instead of saying, I'm so worried if they're going to like me, that you say, you know what? I'm really fun to be around. Like, I'm really fun to talk to. And if you don't think so, that's totally fine. Like, we probably wouldn't enjoy talking, together, right? But you don't change what kind of conversations you have just because that person isn't necessarily enjoying it. Don't waste your time. Be kind and move on. Right. And this is something I'm learning as I'm jumping into all these different business meetings. And y'all have never been in this business space and even of my own community. I grew up here and now I'm hanging out with business owners here, which is a totally different like vibe for me. Like high school girls was like, that was comfortable. That was like I could handle hanging out with high school girls. And some people that just scares. But business owners, but here's what I had to do. I had to level up my worthiness of saying, you know what? Yeah, some of you guys have built multiple 6-figure, 7, 8-figure businesses, and I'm standing in the same room as you. I'm not going to worry about whether or not I deserve your time. I'm going to learn anything that I can from you. That's when you walk in with vulnerability and humility instead of ego. And I think that's ultimately when your life changes. Because it takes way more strength to walk in and say, I'm brand new, just moved back here, starting a business, doing this. It's great to connect. Actually serve business owners, boom. Right? That's one thing to do than to go in like I'm, all huffed and puffed up, like I make 7 figures and you need to get to know me because and then later on they find out she's just getting started. Like, really? I don't have to worry about that. I'm confident that I am a beginner. Are you confident in where you are right now? It doesn't mean it's not where you want to be perfect. That's when we ask a lot of questions and we do a lot of learning. We do a lot of listening. And then ultimately you're going to grow, but you're going to be vulnerable and you're going to be real. You're just going to be real This is another level of just being the authentic version of yourself, ripping off the armor as you're protecting the real self to be something that somebody else needs, when actually what they need you to be is show up all of you, because what you have to offer in your most vulnerable state is 100% more value than a fake version of yourself. Because guess what? That fake story is going to stop at some point. When you're vulnerable and you're real and it's just who you are, be there for days. You got nothing to, there's nothing to break. It's just who you are. You're not perfect. You don't have it all together in all the areas. You're just who you are. And when you decide that you're willing to show up like that, I'm telling you, it sounds scary, but when you leave somewhere and you're like, that wasn't so bad. Like, wait, they didn't think I was like a fake. They didn't like, give me a glare and roll their eyes when I said I'm just starting. Like, actually, I got a lot of support. I got a lot of really great, genuine encouragement. That's what actually happens, because people actually appreciate vulnerability. People don't think about it. You don't want to know it all. You don't want somebody who their poop don't stink. I mean, let's just be real. Like, we don't like those people. So why do we think we need to be them? I want you to think about this sentence, and I want you to journal this sentence out this week. It says in Brene Brown's book. If you haven't read Daring Greatly, I definitely encourage you to read it. It says, my first instinct is to blank, but that never worked. So now I blank, and that's changed my life. My first instinct was to cover up the parts of my life that I was embarrassed of, but that never worked. So now I'm honest with myself so that I can see the real red flags that are really in other people, I can see my weaknesses coming out very, very clearly. That's changed my life. So I want you to go in and I want you to think through, what was your first instinct? But now, in this other side of life, you've said, that's not worked. And this is what's changed my life. You guys are absolutely incredible. In case someone hasn't told you today, I love you. I believe in you. And we may not know each other, but there are people across the world who hate each other for absolutely no reason. I'm going to choose to love you for absolutely no reason until we meet and I find out all the reasons to love you. I hope you have an amazing day. And I hope you take this to heart. I hope this is something where you can really start to expose who you are, if just for your own self. Forget telling anybody else, for your own self. I want you to work through things and I want you to be proud. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a professional counselor. I am a mom that is living life alongside you. And so, with that being said, if you need to dive through, if this has like uncovered a lot of things, high five to you and going and getting counseling. Have someone to walk you through this. Have someone to give you a game plan of healing. You deserve it. I'm in my own healing process with a counselor, and it is so powerful to have someone else care about you in a way that your mind, it can't even go there. And so I believe in you. I'm cheering you on. Your best days are always ahead. And you guys keep being genuine. I'll see you next week.